When you open Flash, go ahead and start an ActionScript 2.0 file. And one of the first things that we want to do is set the frame rate, the frames per second, at 30 so that it runs a little smoother. Remember, the higher the frame rate, the smoother it runs. We'll leave the stage size set at the default, and we'll leave the stage color black. We're going to need our type tool or text tool. Whoops, and I'm going to move my tools over here because this is what I'm used to. Your text tool. You want to make sure that you have it set at classic text and static. There are different types of text that are used for different reasons. Make sure you have that. You are going to type in either the word Bobcats or your name, first or last name, nickname, friend's name, but it does need to be at least 5-6 characters minimum. Okay, no 4 characters. I'll let you choose the font. However, a wider font is better as opposed to a thin font. And you are going to need to increase the font size, and depending on what word you selected, you may have to choose something different. So I'm putting mine at 100. I'm then going to use the free transform tool to widen it. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit wider, but not necessarily taller. And of course, I want to change the color to something other than Longhorn Orange. How about Cougar Red? There we go. That sounds good to me. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to animate the word one letter at a time, and we're going to wind up using some presets in the motion editor to make it bounce off the stage. We're going to want to set a guide, and we'll do that by going to the View menu and choose Rulers, and then we just drag from the top ruler, and we want it to be about 2/3 of the way down. And then once you get the guide in the right place, go ahead and move your letters down so that they sit right on top of that line. Okay, that's going to be our guideline. And I'm going to go ahead and increase this so I can see everything better. Okay, now because we're doing this one letter at a time, oops, my color didn't change. There we go. Because we're doing this one letter at a time, we have to break the text apart and so that each letter can be moved independently, and then convert each letter to a symbol. We're going to make each one a movie clip. So let's start by breaking it apart. Remember, that's under the Modify menu or Command B. Now, breaking it apart did not make it into a shape. It just made them into separate letters. If we were to do Command B again or break apart again, then they would wind up being shapes. We'll go ahead and convert each to a symbol. So this is going to be B, and it's a movie clip. Now, this is going to be what's going to be different. So far, whenever we've done this, we've kept the registration point in the center. For this one, we actually want it to be the bottom center, okay, for each one of these letters. And that's so that it rotates. Flash measures from this point, and we want it to rotate from that point. Okay, so there's the first one. Then we'll do the second one, convert to symbol. Oh, it's a movie clip. It kept the registration point. Since this is a second B, I'm going to call this B2, movie clip, registration, and C, A, And you notice that after you get it set for the first one, it's keeping the options the same, so I don't have to change those. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and select all our layers, and we're going to distribute to different layers, because right now they're all on the same layer, and as you know, you have to put, anytime you want a motion tween on something, they have to be on their own separate layer. So I am using the method of clicking on that keyframe, and it selects everything on that keyframe. You could also use your selection tool and click and drag, and it selects all the letters. Either method works. If we control click, we get a pop-up menu where we can choose distribute to layers, and from there you're going to notice that you have the layers and they're named the same as the letters. And I'm going to go ahead and delete the original one because there's nothing on it anymore. And they are in order, B-O-B-C-A. So we're going to have these letters drop in from above the screen, but they're going to drop onto this guideline, okay? So what I want to do is in frame 31 of the bottom layer, I want to go ahead and insert a keyframe, F6, and then I'm going to go back to frame 1, and I'm going to put a motion tween on that B, okay? Now, I want you to notice that it did not include that 31, and we meant for that to happen. Now go back to frame 30, insert a keyframe, because that's where we want it to be in frame 30, and now go to frame 1, and we're going to use our shift and our arrows to move it above the stage. And we want, let me zoom in to make this a little easier to see. See the little crosshair? That's your registration point. We want that to be right on the top edge of the stage. And that's so that we can line up all the letters to where they are at the same place above. Okay? So now if I go back and do show frame, that's what happens. Okay? Now, in this motion tween here, if I click anywhere in this motion tween and go to the motion editor, I want you to notice that there's lots of different things here. The one that we want to use right now is eases, and you may have to use this triangle to collapse or expand that section. We're going to click on the plus sign to add the bounce in ease. Then we're going to go to basic motion, and we have to use this top drop down menu and choose bounce in, and it automatically applies it to all of those basic motions. And now if I go back to the timeline, that's what it does. Okay? So now the second part of this is also going to have a motion tween. And I'm going to put a motion tween on this. And then in frame 45, I'm going to insert a keyframe. And I'm going to use my shift and my arrows to move it to the bottom of the stage. Again, I want the top edge of that symbol to be on the bottom edge of the stage. Now, on this one, let me make sure. There you go. It still bounces in the first half and then it drops. On this one, we want it to fall and rotate off the stage. So I'm going to click inside of this motion tween, not this one, but this one, and I'm going to click rotate one time counterclockwise. Okay, now if I go back to frame 1, bounce, rotate. That's what we want it to look like. Now we have to do the same thing to the remaining letters, and Flash has an easy way for us to do this. Before we do that though, we have to get the remainder of these letters getting to the right spot. So I'm going to start by clicking and dragging on frame 31 so that I'm selecting the remaining layers, and I'm going to insert a keyframe, F6. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to frame 1, and we did that because remember we want the letters to be staying there. On frame 1, I'm going to select all those letters. And I'm going to use my shift and my arrows to get these up to the edge of the, whoops, there, and then I can see that they're all equal. Okay, so that's where they're going to start. Now, I need to click and drag to highlight this first motion tween here. Okay, now I can't click and then click again because that'll move it. I have to click and hold it and drag to select that. And then I can control click and do copy motion. And then same thing, click and drag. And then I can control click and I can paste motion. And now they should all be dropping and bouncing at the same time. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this second part here. So I'm going to click, whoops, click, oops, let me try that again. Click and drag to select that motion tween, copy motion, and then I'm going to click and drag to select all the remaining keyframes over here in 31, control click, and paste motion. Now all of them bounce the same and rotate off. Now, it looks pretty good as is, but it would look better if we would stagger the letters. And we're going to stagger them every 10 frames. So what I want is the O. If I click on the O layer, it's going to select everything. And then once it's selected, I can click on that first keyframe and I can move it over to where the first keyframe starts on the 10. Now, the way that you can ensure that it actually starts on the 10 is right down here is our current frame indicator. So it's telling us where that is. So now this one should start on the 20. And remember that if you mess up, you can always Command Z to undo or move it one more frame. This one will start on the 30. This one on the 40, 50, and 60. Okay, so now they're all staggered. They bounce in and rotate off at different increments. Okay, now go ahead and go on to the second part of the video to finish this up, or the second video to finish this up.